my wife and I were talking the other day, and just about various things. And wouldn't it be neat to take some of these stories that we have lived and the things that we've experienced and record them? And as we were talking about, it's like, oh yeah, we could write them down. And then the realization came to us: we're never going to write them down. It just too much work and too much time and just too hard to do. And so, in the course of this discussion, we thought, well, you know what? Maybe if we started actually, because I already do videos, just start sitting down and recording essentially an autobiographical video series of where we came from, our experiences, and some of the stories that we've had. Uh, it's something to kind of pass on if we ever have grandchildren. um, but for those that are interested in just kind of our background, our life story, what we've gone through, the good, the bad, the ugly, and thought it might be a lot of fun. So this is the first in a series. No promises on how regular it will be or how often. It would be awesome if I could do this on a regular basis, but I'm not going to make a promise that I may not be able to keep. So, uh, so for me, I was born and raised in the Sacramento, California area. Loved it. My dad bought a house when I was 2, and has been there pretty much ever since. Grew up uh, and had a fairly normal childhood in the suburb of Sacramento. We were right near one of the Air Force bases, so we had a lot of military. Grew up with the air shows, and a lot of exposure that way. My dad was very active in the community, community council, chamber of commerce, all of those kinds of things. He was constantly at meetings all the time. Um, Growing up, he was also in an organization called JC's, and my mom was in the Lady JC's. They helped coordinate the 4th of July. Uh, I don't want to call it a fair, but a lot of booths in the park, festivities, barbecue, games, fireworks. I spent a lot of years as a kid walking around the baseball fields and the high school fields with a cup in my hand collecting donations for fireworks. So just a lot of things like that. I was, well, I say I was a fairly normal kid. I don't know that normal is the right word. I wouldn't say there was anything terribly unusual about me until 3rd grade. I was always a little bit small for my age. One of the smallest ones in class. In fact, in 5th and 6th grade, there was only like 1 or 2 guys that were smaller than me. As a result of it, it meant that I got bullied. Uh, First couple years, kindergarten, first, 2nd grade, you don't think about it. Um, but by 3rd grade, I was starting to notice it and starting to get sick of it. And my dad gave me a great piece of advice, which I say slightly sarcastically. He says, well, if they pick on you, fight back. And so my 3rd grade year, I spent a lot of time fighting back. Uh, and getting into a lot of fights. I remember one time we were lined up after recess, getting ready to go into class, and one of the guys said something to me, and I hauled off and punched him, and we started fighting, and I broke a necklace he was wearing. And then all the others were like, why'd you break the necklace? Well, I didn't intentionally break the necklace, but the other kids were not happy with me at that point. There was another time we were playing kickball, and a couple of the guys were changing the rules and cheating. And I didn't take too kindly to it and my little hot-headedness. And so I started to walk away. Well, they didn't like me walking away because I was calling the shot, I guess. And so as I'm walking away, one of the guys jumped on my back. And you'll understand why this stands out. A guy named Bucky. But I didn't realize it was Bucky. All I knew was somebody jumped on my back. And so in throwing him off, I took a swing. I actually ended up hitting another kid nearby named Eddie. Got into a pretty good scuffle with him. The yard duties came by, and like I said, I've been fighting a bunch that year. And so they didn't even question the other kids, didn't say anything to them. They just made me go sit on the fence. The recess punishment was if you were in trouble, you had to go sit on the fence during recess. instead of playing. And so I got sent to the fence, and I was defending myself. I was mad because they wouldn't even hear me. It's like this guy jumped on my back and attacked me, but I'm the one in trouble. And that's kind of how I felt that whole year went. Was that they kept coming after me, and I would fight back, and I would be the one to get in trouble because I was sick of getting picked on. In any case, uh, recess ended, and I was still mad, and so I just stayed at the fence, and I waited until everybody else had gone in. They never made me go in. They didn't make me line up. They didn't make me go to class. They just let me sit there and stew. Well, I went home. My house is walking distance. I'm like, forget them. So it was a rough year for me, but that year also, because of the fighting, my social status changed, um, and from that point on, I was not I was not somebody that most other kids hung around with. I would have one or two friends, but generally, if you go back and you look at my class photos, I've marked them all with who I consider friends, and most of them aren't friends. I pretty much was kind of a loner at that point. A couple kids I talked to, but mostly on my own. Um, and that continued all the way through school. Uh, Junior high, end of elementary school, first part of junior high. Uh, our one of the elementary custodians actually was a caller for a teenage square dance group. And so I actually joined that in an attempt to start making some friends and do something because I really had none. Um, and really enjoyed that, uh, but still had a hard time, uh, to the point where we would go to dances, big, huge group social dances, and I actually had a badge made, custom made for me at one of these big events because I had a terrible time, and it said in huge letters, "Help me," and then in smaller letters underneath, "Find a partner." Um, and that helped me find people because they felt sorry for this poor desperate kid. but, uh, in any case, junior high comes around, and I was in seventh grade, and there was an eighth grader named Stefan Smile, and the bullying, right again. And again, I had a couple friends. There was Dennis and Richard, were really the two main ones. A couple guys from Boy Scouts, but yeah. Uh, and Stefan Smile decided it was his job to pick on me. He was a year older than me, a redhead, and he was a pain in the neck. Um, Harassed me in the PE locker room, said stuff uh, about my mother, about my family, and would shove me around. Just constant bullying. We talked to the coach. Actually went to the principal about it. Didn't do anything. Nothing happened. And one time after PE, we were walking our gym. When we were done with PE, we'd have to wait outside, and we'd have to walk around the buildings and then into the hall when class ended, when we heard the bell. And so we're kind of walking around the end of the building, and Stefan decided it was time to go at me, and he tripped me. I had a big old backpack on because I was a nerd, and he trips me, goes after me, and so I fall down, look up, and here comes his foot towards my face. So I grab his foot, pull him onto the ground, and proceeded to beat the crud out of him. I knocked him out, literally. Jumped onto him when he fell, and I just started swinging. Um, got suspended for a day, I think, although he got longer. But I found out in the course of that Stefan was not a popular guy because he was a jerk. And I had a ton of people start, "Hey, good job, George. Awesome job. Way to take him down." Well, and this kind of stuff. And because I was socially awkward, I had no idea how to handle it. My head went, and all of a sudden I thought it was hot stuff. uh, yeah, that didn't last long. Seventh or eighth grade, I think it was eighth grade. Uh, we had a dance at the school. Eighth graders dancing, and asked 3 different girls so they would dance with me. Didn't just get no's, actually got slapped by them. "No, I wouldn't go anywhere near you." Yeah, rough. Um, and that was a lot of my school. Like, so I had a couple guys. Eric Rainey I knew since kindergarten. Eric and I got along pretty well. Still do, actually. In fact, he's one of the few guys from way back I'm still in touch with. Richard, Bill, we had another guy from Vietnam named Bang who would hang around with us a little bit. But for the most part, I was alone. There's actually a picture of me at one of our rallies at school. We had an outdoor amphitheater. And you can see everybody, excited about this rally, and here's me sitting by myself with almost this space, this gap around me. Uh, Very lonely, very lonely. Um, and because of that, it caused me issues later on. Um, my dad growing up was when I was growing up was an atheist. He had been raised Catholic, and so I very much heard and studied about atheism. Um, and then when my parents divorced when I was 15, and I'll talk about that at some point, my dad went to church again for the first couple times, radically changed. That didn't go over so well with me. My mom was much more free with things. And so I took his idea from church and I went the other direction and I started drinking. I found people who would buy alcohol for me. Uh, my my mom and dad both still struggle believing this, but I would keep alcohol in my locker at school. I'd go out and sip in between classes because I thought it made me feel better, made me feel cooler. Started going to parties when I was 17. And when you're at parties, if you're drinking and you're doing the drugs, and I didn't do the drugs, I thought drugs were stupid, but I'll happily drink. But that's your social deal. Hey, it's a party. Everybody likes everybody at a party. And so I felt like I had friends with that because I was drinking and messing around and doing stuff I shouldn't. Um, and later, when I changed and like got into my life and I quit that, well, gee, all of a sudden, no friends again. Yeah. What was really nice though was when I got to college at Bethany, Bethany Bible College, or Bethany College of the Assemblies of God. And then it became Bethany University. Yeah, we saw all three names. But I made some lifelong friends there. Finally, made some very good friends there. Um, a lot of them. Could have made a lot more, except for my social awkwardness and being afraid to talk to people that I saw as different than me. And I don't mean necessarily skin color, cultural, just behavior. Oh, you're behaving in a way that's not a way I would be comfortable with, and so and that's been a process to get over the years. I've had to learn. I've had to adjust. I've had to learn ways that I did things that made people uncomfortable. But um, so those of you who are going, you don't know what it's like to be alone. No, yeah, I do. Um, I'm still, in a lot of ways, socially, I am more comfortable alone. I am very happy to sit at my computer or with a book or something by myself, not talking. I can spend a week by myself, no problem. Quite happy doing that, and I do it once or twice a year just to do it and relax. Um, at the same time, I love performing. I did get involved in drama a little bit in high school and then more in college. I love entertaining. I love doing dramas. It's one of the things when I eventually worked at theme parks. It allowed me to entertain. As the Rhino Rally driver, as a cast member at Disney, as a train robber, I enjoy doing those kinds of things, performing. So I call myself an extroverted introvert. If I'm taking on a role, I love being out there. Uh, but otherwise, I'm happy by myself. When I even visit parks today, I enjoy meeting people. I love it. Um, but then at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, my time. So, um, meeting my wife was an interesting story. I'll talk about that in a future video, and how we got together, how we got ditched by our friends for our first date, and eventually how I ended up in ministry because it's not something I ever imagined. All through high school, I knew I was going to be a high school history teacher. That was what I was going to be. Had the whole picture drawn up with the house, the dog in the front yard, white picket fence, the whole deal. And God changes stuff. And he took a lonely kid and did some amazing things. And I can't wait to share some of those stories, um, and then how we've made it through some very hard times. We've had good, we've had bad, but God's been there through all of it. So I hope you enjoyed this little series. And if you want to know more, if there's specific things you want to know, please let me know in the comments below. Share them there, and let me know what stories you'd like to know, what parts of my life, what you'd like to know about what I think. I'd love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoy this.